Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be testing out Instax Wide film in the Lomography Lomograflok 4x5 back. So Lomography has sent me their prototype back to test out. The actual production model should come out, I believe, we're estimated around August right now. So hopefully there won't be any more delays and we'll get those. Until then, we're going to check this out. I've got my 4x5 Sinar, however you want to say it. Excuse the road noise. We're outside today so we can use this. So we might be competing with a little bit of road noise and maybe even some thunder. So bear with me on that. So we've got the camera set up. We're going to look at the back and see how it's used, go over some of the basics, and then we're going to go and actually make a photograph or a few photographs with it, hopefully on location if the weather lets up. So let's go ahead and look at the body here. This attaches to the camera as a Graflok style back, so instead of sliding into the camera, it's going to replace the ground glass frame altogether and have the little slider locks lock into grooves on the sides. It takes 4 AA batteries. Currently there are 2 metal spacers in between the batteries in order to fill up enough battery space. But this being a prototype, I expect the final design to take care of that and just fit the batteries directly. Now this back does have a blue panel. I don't expect the production version to have that. I mean, if it does, it does. It's not really a deal breaker for me. It looks like they used this off of another camera as a prototype, so we should get something a little more unified in the final product. We have a metal dark slide, which is great, so we know that it's going to be nice and dark. And that's it. So let's load some film into this. The film itself is just a cartridge, and it pops in. We'll lock it in, and we'll put it in the camera and we'll take a picture. But you also need to be aware that the film is going to be recessed into this back. That's just a function of how they had to get all the parts in here. That will throw off the focus. So in order to get the focus correct, they include a spacer. And that looks a little bit like this. So whether this is the production model or just a prototype of a future thing, it works pretty well. It's just a piece of cast plastic, but it doesn't need to be any different. We can see that the window is offset a little bit, and then it's also just smaller than 4x5. That's okay, we already know the Instax is going to be like that. This is going to slide under the ground glass just like a regular standard film holder. You just want to make sure that you orient it correctly so that you're actually looking at the correct part. So it's going to mask off the ground glass for the parts we're not going to use for the image area. And it uses most. It's almost the 5 inches wide, and I would say maybe like 3 inches tall. I've got about a 3/4 inch section at the top of the ground glass, which would be the bottom of the image, that isn't being used. That's no big deal. Other than that, that takes care of the focus issues. So now go ahead and just focus on the tree in front of me. Let me get my little hood here. I have my entire dark cloth with me, but if I don't have to use it today, that'd be great. Just because it's so hot and humid today with this thunderstorm. There we go. If you've never used one of these cameras, it's so modular. They actually allow for the extra bellows to be used as either a lens shade or as a lens hood. So I could actually swap this around to the front. Oop, yeah, the front. Gotta move this rod here. And then I can use my bag bellows as a lens hood. That looks good. So we'll use that for our test shot. Now the film is an 800 ISO. There's a black and white version and a color. We're going to be using the color version today. And so I'm going to go out into the rain, which is slowing down a little bit, and get a meter reading. 125th at f/22. We'll do that, get maximum depth of field here. Now, the way that this would work is we take out the frame. I need to close my shutter or we're going to ruin that film. We're going to do a test fire. Alright, we're good there. And now we're going to remove the back completely. We have to get this out of the way because the springs aren't going to stretch out enough and they would block the film slot on the holder. So remove that, and now we're going to put the film holder in. We have the film slot here. I would recommend you always have it go up or to one side or the other if you're doing it vertical. And that's it. I'm just going to put this in, lock it in place. Now we can pull out the dark slide. We do have a dark slide lock. And let's fire it. And at this point, with the dark slide in, we can go ahead and take this off to process, or we can process it on the camera. Let's go ahead and just process it on the camera. We'll leave it on there for the moment. So as we saw, that spring latch right here, the film caught on that pretty immediately. So with this model camera, it might be best that we remove it for the processing step. But we do have our image and it's already processing. So we're going to let that process. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and orient this for a vertical shot. We'll try that one out. Alright, this time I'm going to go ahead and remove the back so I don't accidentally catch it on there again. Okay, let's see what we come up with here. So while that one is processing, the first one we can see, and I'll bring this a little closer, we have this band here, which I believe is from it folding in half when it caught on that spring. So that's why I wanted to make sure we didn't have that happen again. Alright, second one's working. We don't have that streak, that's good. That means most likely, my guess is right, that the streak is from that catching and folding in half. So far, I'm really liking the back. It does have a counter on it to tell me how many frames I have remaining in the package. The only issue that I'm having so far is the film speed, and that is not Lomography's problem, that's Fuji's problem. And that would just mean taking a few shots to get the correct film speed for your system. And at $15 for 20 shots, that's not too bad. So we can afford to use a few sheets. I've got 2 more boxes after this one's done, and we'll go out and try to make a interesting piece with that. But let's make sure we get the right film speed first. This is looking much, much better. Still a little bright, still not fully developed, but it is definitely looking a little bit better. While we're waiting for this to fully process, which it's getting pretty close to done, I do want to take a quick second to thank the folks over at Lomography for sending this to me. They're not paying me to do this in any way. The production model that's coming, I bought as soon as it was available. I couldn't even tell you what the current price is. I believe I got in there for like the early bird price, so you have to look and see. But I just want to say thanks to the folks over at Lomography for sending this out to me. I think it's great that we as a channel have finally grown big enough that we've caught some attention from some of these companies, and I'm hoping that we can test other things in the future, because that'd be just awesome. Alright, I'm going to say this is actually probably pretty close to done. It is overexposed. Now bear in mind, I metered, you can see this picture here, I metered deep down right by the trunk underneath that foliage, which was the darkest part of the image rather than in front. So let's meter a little bit further out and see if we can get a better exposure, because I really want to get this correct first. Now I will say that view camera work is slow, so putting this on, taking the shot, taking everything out, putting the back on with the spacer to focus and compose, taking the back off, putting the film back on, and taking the shot. It does seem a little slow compared to just regular film holders, or even just the old Polaroid or Fuji back. But it's not really that big of a problem. You're typically with a view camera not doing anything super fast to begin with. It's a slow process. Now what I have in mind coming up will take a little bit, because I am going to be changing things back and forth between each shot and taking multiple shots. It's going to be slow is my prediction. However, the only time that you're really going to be kind of working with multiple shots realistically would be if you're using this to proof your lighting setups before an actual shoot. But if you're doing that, you're going to be doing that long before any models show up, because you don't want to be doing this when a model's there and you're paying them by the hour. So you would typically do this before they show up, get it done. You can take as much time as you need. Then when the model's there, you're using regular film holders, bing bang boom, you're taking your shots, and you're good. Okay, so I think we've got it here. This one looks much better. It's still processing, and it does take a few minutes to fully process. But yeah, I think 800 is probably right. It's most likely the shifting light, and then because I'm using an incident meter, really where am I holding it? Am I holding out in front, in which case the tree is a little too dark? Or am I holding it under the tree and then everything else is just way too light? So kind of in between, getting it the best sort of representation of the actual shade. I would say this is pretty good. It's going to develop a little bit more, get a little bit deeper in color and saturation. But okay, I'll give it to Fuji. It's 800. My fault for not being patient and just kind of jumping the gun here. So film seems to be doing pretty good. The back seems to be working fantastic. I'm not having any light leaks, and it's easy to use. I like this very much. And once the rain lets up enough, we'll go on a little field trip with it. Maybe not far, depending on how much it's letting up, or if the lightning actually does start to hit like it's supposed to. Since I've got a metal camera and a metal tripod, probably not a good idea to be out there in the middle of the field, lightning. And we'll take some pictures. We'll see how this works beyond just the testing phase.